Hi, my name is Karley Jones, and this is my curriculum analysis presentation for EDU 511. The curriculum that I've decided to work with is the Philadelphia Public Schools Elementary K-8 Literacy, Math, Science, and Social Studies. And the grade level that I went with to research was first grade math. And I decided to go with the Philadelphia Public Schools curriculum because I wanted to compare it to curriculums that we use here in Ohio. And a statement of philosophy that jumped out at me when I was researching this curriculum is here at the bottom: good instruction is the best test preparation. I'd like to begin talking about the foundations. First, when I was researching this curriculum, it started out with a letter written to the colleagues, and it was to inform them of the resources that are going to be used for the instruction and to give them an idea of what the schedule will look like that year. It also stated that there's some changes with Year at a Glance, which is another idea that I'm going to be talking to you about more specifically later on, but it still continues to highlight objectives and teaching goals. On the other hand, I was kind of surprised because there was no explanation of how the curriculum was chosen. So that's something that I would like to dig a little deeper into. And this connects to Learning Session 1, where it said curriculum is a collection of decisions regarding selection, ordering, emphasis, breadth of treatment of the chosen content elements, and assessment of the selected content. Next was PST and YAG. These are two ideas that were written in the letter to the colleagues. PST stands for Planning and Scheduling Timeline, and it's a breakdown of what is going to be taught and when. The PST kind of serves as a pacing guide for teachers to follow and will allow grade level teachers to stay on the same page throughout the year, giving all students in that grade level some consistency with their classmates. And they'll all be learning the same material at the same time. And the Year at a Glance is a summary and overview of the entire year, which are broken down into 4 cycles tied to the McGraw-Hill Everyday Mathematics. So that is their core curriculum. In addition, teachers will incorporate best practice suggestions in multicultural activities. The YAG is a nice resource for teachers to use and maybe even distribute to the parents of their students, if permitted, to share that information. It gives an overall look of what to expect, what skills the students will be learning and when. The PST gives more of a breakdown of each cycle and more specific content information. Next, for foundations, I want to talk about the developers. Who's involved in the planning and scheduling timeline, or PST? And I found out that the superintendent, associate superintendents, and the school reform commission is part of it. And also noted in the letter to the colleagues, it was stated that the PST reflects only essential revisions based on feedback from classroom teachers with extensive expertise in teaching the core curriculum. And I like the idea a lot that the classroom teachers were included in this process, and they're believed to share an expertise in the field. Instead of board members selecting the curriculum, it looks like the teachers who are the ones that are hands-on with the children's learning, and they're being included, which can only benefit those involved. And this ties into Learning Session 2. Evelyn Sowell in 1996, she said, remove the dividing lines between the disciplines. Problems that need to be solved require information from people with diverse kinds of academic training. So it's my assumption that these teachers and the School Reform Commission and everyone involved in building this curriculum has that diverse academic training background. Next, I want to talk about the organization of the curriculum. And I want to start by talking about something we learned in Learning Session 3, standards-based curriculum. It established clear statements about what the students should learn and develop valid and reliable assessment systems that can determine that desired learning has occurred. Then, overview of mathematics assessment anchors, Year at a Glance, and planning and scheduling timeline, which I'm going to talk to you more specifically in the next couple of slides. So first I want to start off with the overview of mathematics assessment anchors. Here it shows the standards being used in the math curriculum, which are Pennsylvania state standards, and they're all listed and at the bottom. It gives a chart which provides a reporting category and the standards that go along with it. Then there's the year at a glance, and there's 4 cycles: number and operations, measurement, geometry, algebra, and data analysis and probability. And there's dates, days, units, lessons, assessment, and cycle midpoint. That's all written on the year at a glance form. And it's kind of nice for teachers to be able to refer back to this quickly and see what to teach and when, what unit they should be on, what lessons they should be doing that day. It's just a really convenient piece of information for them. Next is the planning and scheduling timeline, which is kind of like a more specific year at a glance form. And at the top of the timeline, there seems to be a statement of philosophy, which I briefly read in the beginning, and it reads, "Good instruction is the best test preparation." In addition to the statement of philosophy, there's a general objective and goal that all teachers should follow and believe, which is, during this cycle, the goal of my teaching is that students will learn, and I believe that every teacher should start their day with this in their minds, having a goal for all of their students. And then there's cycles 1 through 4, and the teaching objective, which is basically what the teacher will be teaching, and she'll explain how she's going to introduce the concept. And the teaching objective also shows what 21st century skills will be addressed, such as teamwork, collaboration, and lifelong learning. Then there's the content performance descriptors, and this is where the teacher's goals will be to teach to proficiency in each content area. For example, count using whole numbers to 100 by 1s, 2s, 5s, and 10s. Then there's the Pennsylvania Standard Statement, and this is the content standard number and page number is listed next to each performance descriptor. The page number references the pages in the core curriculum. And then last, the textual references structured lessons. And this part of the PST shows what resources being used, which lessons on certain pages, and the special activities. Next, for the organization piece, there's the cycle schedule, and in each cycle it's broken down by what's being learned each week, how many days are intended to teach the content, and also provides the exact dates the content will be taught. And there's also a part for support for 21st century learning, and under that there's learning links and other resources that are being used to teach the content. There's sample assessment items, and in this category an example question is given from an assessment that's used for this part of the content. And the PSSA connection to what I will teach. This category shows what content is being taught and also references the core curriculum pages. And then last, part to whole sequencing. This curriculum is part to whole sequencing, I think, because it involves the teacher starting with a little piece of information at a time and building to a bigger idea. And this ties into Learning Session 5, Academic Subject Design, because the organization is strictly by subject matter and is subject-centered. Next is the content part of the curriculum. In my opinion, the content is appropriate for student needs. Pennsylvania Standards it's all correlated, and it also builds on what they already know. And it includes 21st century skills, and the great part about this curriculum is that it shows the 21st century applied skills and offers the resources that were used for each skill taught. And it also applies to real life. Students need math skills in their everyday life. They need it in the grocery store, when paying bills, when they're older, and even at their young age, understanding the value of a number is extremely important, and this curriculum displays that. This ties into Learning Session 4 because it serves as a curriculum map. When I looked at the year at a glance and the timeline that this curriculum showed, it had every element that a curriculum map has. Academic content standards, enduring understandings, essential questions, content concepts, skills, the assessments, different learning activities, and it provided a list of different kinds of resources. Next is the assessment piece of the curriculum. This curriculum addresses very specific pieces of information of assessment by showing samples of what they look like, or what different questions look like. For each skill, an assessment example is provided. Majority are multiple choice. However, there's still hands-on learning that's required in order to answer the questions correctly. And there are formative assessments questions. Based off of what the samples showed, it seems that they're formative rather than summative because it's not a cumulative review. And last is the critique. Learning activities and experiences involves the curriculum being aligned with Pennsylvania's content standards, and the learning activities and experiences didn't really allow for each student to learn in their own way. That was kind of the only downfall in my opinion. I just kept thinking of students that might fall behind, and that pace really doesn't allow them to fall behind, which is kind of unrealistic because all children don't learn at the same pace. And I'm wondering if there's a special education program or some kind of special curriculum for those students who need that extra help. For example, where's the time for the students to be pulled out or pulled aside to work one-on-one, or the students that have IEPs, etc.? And this ties into Learning Session 6, Objective-Based Tests. Learning objectives are developed and aligned with tests that measure the objectives. And it's obvious how important test taking and objectives are in this district based off of what the letter to the colleagues read. They stressed the importance of the quote, good instruction is the best test preparation, as well as putting an emphasis on the objectives and teaching goals no matter what changes occur. Next, for critique, I started it off with a question. How does this curriculum cater to the digital natives? Resources are provided which are technological and online. So even if a teacher isn't super tech savvy, she or he are able to learn from the other teachers since they're all using the same resources at the same time. And this ties into Learning Session 7 when Mark Prensky stated, the single biggest problem facing education today is that our digital immigrant instructors who speak an outdated language, that of the pre-digital age, are struggling to teach a population that speaks an entirely new language. And this curriculum requires all teachers, no matter what generation they come from, to use 21st century based skills, which I think is great. And in conclusion, the Philadelphia public school system seems to provide teachers, administrators, and all other colleagues with a great amount of information to work with. And their curriculum seems up to date with technology advances, fits all student needs and learning styles, and builds off of what students know to prepare them for what is next. Thank you for listening.